So after yesterday's video, I got called out. If you didn't see yesterday's video, I did a video on Star Citizen and I said, do you believe CIG? If you didn't see that video, it's up there in the corner. And obviously I made some Star Citizen fans mad because I'm asking some questions. You know, I have some critiques. I'm being critical, and that's not allowed. So I've made some of them mad. And if you're a fan of Camelot Unchained, I'm probably going to make you mad today too. But you have to remember, 11 years ago, well, more than 11 years ago, I was excited for Camelot Unchained. It came to us in a trailer. The first teaser trailer dropped in 2012. And if you remember 2012 in the MMORPG world, we were pretty bored. We wouldn't end up seeing ArcAge for another year. BDO would come after that, Revelation Online after that. And it's kind of been, we're waiting for the next big combat MMORPG. We've seen other games, throwbacks, Pantheon, Ashes of Creation, Chronicles of Elyria, but Camelot Unchained was something near and dear to people for a lot of things they said in their Kickstarter. And they did have a very, very successful Kickstarter. What they were asking for was they were asking for $2 million, and they raised 2.2. And in their Kickstarter, they even talked about that the money raised from Kickstarter will only be used to fund a portion of the game's development cost, and we've already lined up additional sums. So it sounded like all the way back then that there was a plan for success. The biggest thing, about a year later, ArcAge released in the West, and the first thing we found in ArcAge was the combat's great. And then we found a major limitation in that the server, the client, the magic pixies that run around and make the interwebs work, they kind of struggled at more than about 150 people on the screen at a time. And then we started talking about Camelot Unchained again. The big piece being the Unchained Engine. The tech director and lead programmer, Andrew Meggs, is spearheading the creation of an internal engine. Its sole purpose to allow our players to fight epic realm versus realm battles in a dynamic world without the slideshows or limitations of many past games. They threw down the gauntlet and they said, maintain an absolute minimum of 30 frames per second in battles of up to 500 people. And as time went on and they upgraded their technology and they refined it, they'd actually go so far as to say on their website, the Unchained Engine delivers large-scale, real-time battles between players. 1,000 of them up close and personal so far, and more coming during Beta 1. Now, there's a lot of technical stuff right here, but does it sound impressive? Join us and see for yourself. And let me just say, I would absolutely love to. Another game that's in development, Ashes of Creation, has said that they feel confident they can have these large-scale battles, a lot of the same tech stuff, a lot of the same draw distances, procedural generation, character mesh building, combining, making a milkshake, whatever, throw it in the blender. But the truth is we haven't quite seen any game get there yet. Now, Camelot Unchained, what I will go back to, I get a lot of confidence from a company where the guy in charge is willing to put his own money on the line. Mark Jacobs is willing to do something quite unheard of on Kickstarter, which is to put $2 million of his own money into the project, while at the same time not using any of the money raised from this Kickstarter to fund any part of his salary, perks, benefits, etc. I respect that. Stephen Sharif, CEO and creative director at Intrepid Studios on Ashes of Creation, $2 million of his money around the Kickstarter time, pledged to put up to $45 million, I believe, also doesn't draw a salary. Now, Capsian, over at Chronicles of Elyria, turns out he was maybe paying himself $250,000 a year as a salary, so I have a lot of respect for Mark Jacobs. Now, the problem is, Camelot Unchained just never quite got there. It was always a matter of, we're not there yet, we're not taking down the NDA, we're not ready for more testing. But now they say, absolutely, unequivocally, Camelot Unchained expected to release in 2025 as City State Entertainment rebrands to Unchained Entertainment. Camelot Unchained and developer City State has gone under a rebrand. This comes with the new funding and a push towards the release of its first game, Final Stand Ragnarok. Now, this was posted on the 29th of February, and I believe Camelot Unchained prequel for Final Stand Ragnarok launches today in early access, and that was on March 14th. And I will put links to all these articles down below if any of them are interesting, you want to read them. But if I come over here to the Final Stand Ragnarok page, and maybe I'm wrong, and if I'm wrong and there's a new page, please let me know, but it looks like this is it. There's a special promotion ending on the 21st of March, $14.99, okay? And then the really bad piece. If I check the stats, it looks like there's one person in game. 3 have played in a 24-hour peak, and 37 have played in an all-time peak. Now, if I'm wrong, and I have the wrong Steam database, if I have the wrong app ID, let me know, but this was last recorded on 15 March. If I go to my other Steam charts that I usually use, it shows 0, and it's not even updating. So I'm going to admit it's possible I'm looking at the wrong stuff. But either way, spin-off games have started to happen. Camelot Unchained's developers touts the engine powering everything, the Unchained Engine, as well as new funding from A16Z Games. More money is always good. We know that MMORPGs are a massive undertaking. And I've said many times, and I'd love your answer to this question, should MMORPGs be allowed to be on Kickstarter before they have a core viable product? So what I mean by that is, should a developer have to have some base game playable, testable, demoable before they're allowed to go to Kickstarter? And should Kickstarter just be for refinement and polishing? Because as we know, no MMORPG that's Kickstarted has ever met their dates. Mark Jacobs points specifically to the Unchained Engine, saying the engine can deliver massive battles similar to the one seen in Lord of the Rings. And I would agree with that. If you can put 1,000 players on the screen at one time, it'll probably be amazing. The question is, does Camelot Unchained have a large enough following now that they'll even be able to get 1,000 people to play? Now, I know that some of people will say, oh, it looks dated. And you know what? That's fine. In the era of Unreal Engine 5 or that amazing RE engine that Capcom is using for Dragon's Dogma 2, man, characters have come a long way. But would you sacrifice graphics for more compelling gameplay? And if the answer is yes, how far back or how worse can the graphics get? Do we need, oh my God, WTF, ray tracing, Blu-ray quality, character facials? Do we need all that? And that is a question. Leave your comment below. Final Stand Ragnarok is gearing up for its 1.0 launch in March. However, the company's long-awaited MMORPG project, Camelot Unchained, is now expected to release late next year. So if we're talking December 2025, 13 years, that's a long time to wait. Camelot Unchained, Mark Jacobs talks release window, communication, and more. Camelot Unchained, Unchained Entertainment, formerly City State, has finally given us a glimmer of hope that it's gonna launch late next year. For Jacobs' part, he understands the consternation, but believes his team of developers can make the date. In an interview last week, Jacobs described a situation that took place behind the scenes about the future of Camelot Unchained. He was having conversations with certain people about Camelot Unchained. About 8 months ago, he was having a conversation, how to move forward with it, or frankly not. He said, Unchained Entertainment has not progressed as much with Camelot Unchained as he would like in the past, so they started changing things. The investors agreed. And basically what they want is, thou shall not be done, at the end of 2025, because that would be nonsense. But this is a date from the key people who believe we can make that date. And as we all know, dates have become the bane of every single MMORPG developer in recent time. Ashes of Creation was supposed to be before 2020, and now we don't have a launch date. Pantheon, kind of floating around in the water, we don't have a launch date. Throne and Liberty was supposed to have a global release last year and the year before that, and then it launched in Korea and didn't have a global release. So dates are just a pain for everybody. Oh, and ArcAge 2, video up there if you didn't see it. ArcAge 2's release date was pushed. It was supposed to be this year, and now it's after 2025. So 2026 soonest. So now the question really becomes, are we still in an era where we can, can we have a faction versus faction based game? And is that going to work, right? It is a faction versus faction versus faction game what people are looking for? Or are people more geared towards that more persistent world feeling where it's more sandboxy, not very theme park? Do players still want preformed factions, or do players want the conflict to be around guilds? And do you want to necessarily be separated from your friends because you want to play an Arthurian and your best friend wants to play a Tuatha and your other person, girlfriend, whatever, wants to be a Viking? You know, Camelot Unchained has declared a launch window of late 2025. It's going to launch. Can you believe it? Can you? Do you believe it? Because I find it somewhat dubious after a decade. And I have to agree with Elliot here. What we're having is we're having more and more games that have kind of almost not exactly been forgotten about, talking about now we have a release date. And do you think a game like Camelot Unchained, with the gameplay footage you've seen during this has been the most up-to-date that they've posted? And if there's more up-to-date footage and I missed it, please, Camelot Unchained players, don't get mad at me. Just say, hey, there was more up-to-date footage and you didn't see it. But can a game that's been in development now for 11 years compete with games that are going to be coming down the pipe? Do you still want faction-based games? Has Camelot Unchained missed its window of opportunity, and has the window on faction-based games closed, and now we're looking for more free-form, player-driven, sandbox, immersive worlds? Let me know what you think. And now, Camelot Unchained players, here's your time, here's your prompt. If you're still excited about Camelot Unchained, why are you still excited? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you next time.